So here's the miscellaneous. Here's the first one, Economics, the Economy of Cities. This is by Jacobs. Nice little pocket paperback, as I call them. This is 1970. I'm very interested about this book because if you consider why do we live in towns and cities? Well, the first civilizations of Sumeria and Egypt, the beginning of agriculture required that cities be built because when you're nomad, you can run around and take your stuff with you and follow hunting, follow herds, or and run away from aggressive nomads, I guess. But if you're going to plant things or you're going to take care of plants, which is called horticulture, if you're going to take care of plants that already exist in the ground, which is horticulture, or you're going to plant and plow fields, that's agriculture, you have to stay put because your property is now stuck to the land because plants don't move around. If you're going to have a lot of that going on, you have to have a town to trade all the produce, to defend the land. So that's the beginning of towns. Now, move forward to the Industrial Revolution. You have cities, and you have intellectual centers that are important cities, have those. And the countryside is farmed or is hunted if it's forest, or logged, I guess. But the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, you have another huge wave of people moving and living in cities because the factories were a better way of life than the farm, than the rural. So this all matters to the economy of cities because I have recently heard that because of cheap technology, because of communication, ease of communication like the internet, for example, and because you can do a lot of stuff from home, we can work from home, or you can ship stuff from home, you can have all kinds of small businesses that run out of your home, and the communication element like teleconferences and all that kind of stuff. This may provide an impetus or a reason for people to move out of cities. And I think that's been happening the last few decades, the rotting of the core of cities. And I know a lot of basically cities, I guess in Canada and the US, cities tend to be a lot more multicultural than rural. Rural tends to be the ordinary. The most average of the population tend to be out in the rural, like the European person versus the anything else like Indian or Middle Eastern or South American or whatever that might be. They tend to congregate in cities versus live out in the rural farm areas. And I just wonder whether, because of new technology, whether we'll see as an opposite movement, people moving out of cities and wanting more peaceful land and less noisy places to live outside of cities. So as long as and for me personally, I don't care where I live as long as I'm 1 hour away from an airport, then I'm fine. I can live anywhere. Here's an art book, Treasures from the Tower of London. This is on medieval weaponry and armor. This is really neat. They've also got some early guns in here. There's a flintlock revolver. This isn't medieval, though. I guess I shouldn't say that. This is early 19th century. Flintlock pistol used by pirates and stuff. And you've got all kinds of rifles and spears and swords. And here's some swords. And so I think this is pretty neat. A neat book. Oops, neat book to have on weaponry, old weaponry. Here's a detailed handle of a sword. So that's pretty neat to have. Okay, 2 books on kind of biography. So here's the first one, The Man of the Renaissance, although it really should be called The Men of the Renaissance. This is by Ralph Roeder. This is on Savonarola Castiglione, Machiavelli, and Aretino. So I don't know who any of them are except for Machiavelli, of course, his politics. But the other ones I'd be interested to hear about. It sounds like they're all Italian. So that's the area. I don't know if they were alive together or not, but so I think that'll be interesting. And I think it says the four lawgivers, so they're all political guys. So, and I think Mr. Cropper would be very pleased with that one because I think he has that book. I think I remember him talking about that one. And here's one more I got actually for free. Journals of Ayn Rand. So I've been interested lately in, and I'm into this a little bit. This book is has a lot of stuff about her writing her big novels, but there's also stuff in here about her early notes and thoughts on philosophers like Nietzsche, and you can actually see her early ideas are very Nietzschean, and then she moves out of it, even though she always denied that Nietzsche had an influence on her. She believes that Aristotle, she owes more of a debt to Aristotle, and perhaps in the long run that's true, but her early ideas were certainly very Nietzschean. And actually, I remember when I was reading Isabel Patterson's book called The God of the Machine, there is a lot of Rand in there, but she wrote that before Rand published, I think, The Fountainhead. So that suggests that Rand got some of that stuff from Isabel Patterson. So there's another interesting connection there. But I don't think she talks about her. I guess I'm not all the way through yet, but let me just see if Patterson's in the index here. Because that's, oh yeah, Isabel Patterson's in here. Okay, so there'll be stuff on Isabel Patterson. Well, that's good because that's a definite influence. The reason why they eventually split up, though, is because Patterson was definitely religious, and you can see that in The God of the Machine. But anyways, I think I'm interested in kind of the thought process. I have seen lately people kind of saying that Ayn Rand was really, her experiences in Bolshevik Russia was really like the reason why she rails against socialism and communism and anything to do with statism is because she had such a horrible experiences in Russia. And that I'm sure that's true, but I don't think that Ayn Rand's ideas are merely a psychological rant against, like a PTSD rant against that. I think she certainly had experiences with that, but I think she did a lot of introspection and articulated that fear into a political philosophy. Okay, I thought there was, oh yeah, history. Last section is history.